Hey YouTube, what's going on guys? Welcome to Wizard Gaming, your best stop to learn some Fortnite fundamentals. Should you be dropping into the outskirts? What's the best material to use when someone is shooting at you to defend yourself? And how high can you build without taking fall damage? These are all important things to know in Fortnite, and we're going to be covering all of these things and more in this video. Today we're doing our second edition of 10 tips that you need in Fortnite. If you missed the first video, make sure to check it out, the link is in the description. So without further ado, let's get started. Tip number 1, use third person to peek. Using third person is a great way to make sure that you have your crosshairs on your opponent before you actually expose your body. Using third person is also a great way to peek at your opponents to get an idea of where they are. Practice looking around and over walls before you actually expose yourself, that way you can protect yourself from any damage. Tip number 2, learn to edit. Learning the different possible ways to edit your structures is going to help you to be able to move more freely through them and more quickly. Also, learning how to edit is going to make it so you can make more elaborate structures. If you're in your base and you take a lot of damage, you might want to consider editing out a piece of your floor or your stairs and going beneath and then editing it back so it's protecting you again before you heal up. Tip number 3, crouch to reduce noise. Crouching to reduce noise is going to help a lot in sneaking up on your enemies. Sometimes you just want to get closer to someone so that you can get a better shot off before they know that you're there, and crouching is going to help you get as close to them as possible. Also, if you're in a sticky situation and you want to get away without being heard, the best way to do that is going to be by crouching. Tip number 4, utilize high ground. Utilizing high ground is one of the most important tips today. Having high ground above your opponents makes it a lot easier for you to get headshots on them. It also makes using explosive weapons like RPGs devastating. They're so much easier to use when you're above your opponents. So anytime you can get high ground on your opponent, try to capitalize on it. Tip number 5, keep the right meds. Do you know whether you should keep a med pack or bandages, or a big shield or baby shields? Well, I have the answer for you. Generally, you're always going to want to keep med packs over bandages just because your med pack can help you get to 100. Although it seems like you're sacrificing some potential to heal since 15 bandages is 150 health and a med pack is only a total of 100. You're going to want to be able to get to that 100. It's going to be more important. Also, usually you're going to want to keep baby shields over big shields just because they're a lot quicker in combat to use. And you're also allowed to carry a lot more baby shields than you are full shields. Like if you think about it, if you're only carrying 2 big shields, that's a total of 100 shield. If you're carrying 10 baby shields, then that's a total of 250 shield, which is a big difference. Tip number 6, no fall damage at 3 stories. So there you guys have it, now you know. You can build up to 3 stories and drop down without taking any damage. If you build any higher, you're going to take some small damage, and then the higher and higher you go, you're going to obviously eventually get high enough that you're going to die when you fall. So when you're building your base, just take that into consideration and try to build your bases no higher than 3 stories high if you think that you're going to have to jump out of them quickly. Tip number 7, use metal for base. And what I mean by this is when you're building your 1x1 base, try to use metal at the bottom and then work your way up to either brick or wood, just because people are going to try to chop you down by shooting out the bottom of your base, and obviously metal is a lot harder to take down than wood. Tip number 8, use wood when under fire. Using wood when under fire is the best material option. This is just because when you put a wall down made of wood, it actually has more health than if you put a wall down of any other material. Although the other materials have a higher total health once they're finished building, the wood actually has a higher starting health. So if someone is raining down bullets on you, your best bet is to use wood to protect yourself. Tip number 9, avoid players in storm. What I mean by avoiding players in the storm is basically if the storm is on your ass, or if you see someone and you're already in the storm, your best bet is to probably just keep running till you're in the safe zone. If you think that you can avoid fighting them, because if you get into a fight with them and you get really low on health, you might end up being finished off by the storm. And also sometimes you just get in situations where you need to stop and be a little bit tactical, and being in the storm or having it coming towards you is really going to hinder your ability to do that. So if you're running away from the storm and you see someone running ahead of you, do your best to try to keep following them so that you can kill them, but wait to engage them until you're actually in the safe zone. And finally, tip number 10, don't, I repeat, don't drop into Outskirts. Now, this isn't a golden rule, but I like to avoid dropping into the very outskirts. Just because when you drop into the very outskirts, a lot of times if the circle doesn't favor you, you're running from the storm like the whole match. It's the worst. Also, there's not really very good loot in the outskirts. There's not really many big places, like for example Tilted Towers, Retail Row, a lot of the name places, Pleasant Park. They're kind of not in the middle of the map, but they're not in the very outskirts either. So when you're landing in the outskirts, you're usually landing at like 1 or 2 houses and then running a while before you find another house. And this can be problematic just because there's not going to be a lot of great loot. And although it might seem like the best idea since you won't really see anybody, if you're worried about running into people, then you probably should actually be looking for people, to be honest, because then you're going to be more comfortable around them and you're going to be more comfortable getting into gunfights. And that's going to do it for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It always helps. And also don't forget to check out my first video in this series for more helpful tips. And keep an eye out for my next tips video. I'll probably be making one next weekend. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you in the next one.